What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fat Field channel. We are here for night two reactions of the NFL draft, and this was a big night for the Miami Dolphins as we had a second round pick and we had three third round picks tonight. Now, what I thought they were going to do was they were going to trade one of those third round picks and they were going to try to get a second round pick out of that trade. Um, that did not happen. They stuck with their guns. Apparently, the Dolphins were making a ton of trade calls, trying to move up into the draft order in the second round, which that didn't happen. There was a bunch of trades that did go on tonight. I would say the biggest trade that happened was Jonathan Grenard getting traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I mean, for that, for a third round pick, I think it was another pick too. Uh, for Jonathan Grenard, I mean that is a stellar trade for the Philadelphia Eagles. Absolutely stellar. But for a Dolphins standpoint, right? Um, all fill it up, man. Flyers, Sixers. What the hell am I doing talking about the Eagles? Sixers lost tonight. I was bouncing back and forth after the Dolphins had their first second round pick. I was bouncing back and forth between the draft and the Sixers. Yeah, the Sixers did end up losing tonight. They're now down 2-1 in the series to the Boston Celtics. It's competitive, and that's all you can ask for at the end of the day. But um, as far as this draft goes, I felt like tonight was more important than last night because of all these draft picks that they had to capitalize on. And I'm gonna be honest with you, some of these picks I was scratching my head, but at the end of the day, like I've realized to myself that I've gone through so much Chris Greer trauma in the last couple years when it comes to the NFL draft that I can't react like I don't want to react negatively to these picks that John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Halfley are making because because I'm used to disappointment when it comes to the draft. I'm used to Chris Greer taking bad players. Look at Channing Tindall, look at Cam Smith, Taj Washington still on the team. This man Chris Greer has Noah Igbinogheni's another one in 2020. Tua Tagovailoa, obviously. Chris Greer has made a ton of bad picks, and those picks have set this team back years. And I'm just so used to, you know, I'm so used to the Dolphins getting it wrong with Chris Greer. And I'll admit, there were some picks tonight that made me scratch my head, but at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? This is John Eric Sullivan's vision. This is his vision of the team, and I'm gonna rock with it, and I'm gonna hope for the best, and I will determine how these draft picks are with their play on the field. I will determine how good they are when I see them on the field. But to recap what happened tonight, and then we'll talk about like each of the picks briefly. But second round, the Miami Dolphins got linebacker Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. I wanted a wide receiver, but I cannot believe Rodriguez fell to 43, and the fact that the Dolphins took him. He is a Texas Tech linebacker, and you know who else is a Texas Tech linebacker? Jordan Brooks. And you know who else was a Texas Tech linebacker? The legendary Zach Thomas. So I love that pick. Probably my favorite pick of the entire draft was Jacob Rodriguez at 43. Um, our second pick at 75 in the third round was Caleb Douglas, which at that point they could have gotten Chris Brazzell. They could have gotten Jacoby Lane, Skylar Bell, Ted Hurst, Chris Bell. Um, there was a lot of options there at 75, and they end up going with a guy who probably would be there tomorrow. Honestly, if they wanted Caleb Douglas, and again, I'm not saying it's a bad pick because obviously the Dolphins and John Eric Sullivan, they see something in this guy. So, and he's 6'3", he's a big physical receiver. Um, they see something in him. I'm not going to overreact to it. I just feel like they could have probably gotten him tomorrow. And then in 87, they got a tight end out of Ohio State, Will Merrimack. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I knew the moment we drafted him, I was gonna fumble his name. Will Kakmarak. Kakmarak. I don't know how you say his last name. I'm gonna have to know that one. So pick 87, they take Will Kakmarak, and then the last pick of the night, pick 94, they pick Chris Bell, wide receiver from Louisville, which I was like, yes, let's go. If you were not going to get a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, they needed to get at least 2 in the 3rd round. And that's exactly what they did. And I feel happy about it. And for the most part, I know they're probably going to add some more stuff, maybe some more linemen or whatever, maybe another receiver, I don't know. A quarterback for sure to have in the quarterback room. But for the most part, I feel like this offense is set. You have Malik Willis, which they went out in the offseason and they signed. I mean, we'll talk about all of that, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself. They did what they needed to do. They didn't get a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. They had 3 picks in the 3rd round. I wanted to see them get at least 2, and they did. So, I mean, for the most part, I'm happy. I'm happy with tonight's draft. I feel better about the Caden Proctor pick now than when I did yesterday. I feel better about that. I still feel the same about Chris Johnson. I don't feel like the Dolphins needed to trade up to 27 to go get Chris Johnson. He would have been there at 30 for you perfectly fine. Just like Chris Bell was there for you at 94. And Jacob Rodriguez at 43, which I cannot believe he was there at 43. That is a incredible pick by John Eric Sullivan. And if you guys missed my reaction to the 2 first-round picks from last night with Caden Proctor and Chris Johnson, it is available right now. It'll be up in the last 20 seconds of this podcast. All you gotta do is click on it, and it'll take you right there. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, don't do that until you've watched the entirety of this video. Okay. So let's start off. John Eric Sullivan's doing his press conference right now. I didn't even watch his press conference from yesterday. I'm going to have to go back at some point and re-listen to all of it. But I know he said Caden Proctor could play at all 4 positions. But so we get to tonight, and I'm like, receiver or edge rusher. And they announced the pick, and they announced Jacob Rodriguez at 43. And I'm like, whoa. Like, you guys know how last night I was shocked by the Caden Proctor pick last night. And it's kind of like a shock that's like, man, I don't know if he was the best player available. Like, I don't know if I would say it was a good shock. Tonight, with the Jacob Rodriguez pick, I was shocked. in a great way. This guy is an absolute dog. And I know that David Bailey is getting all the flowers and he's getting the second overall pick and he's with the Jets now. Sorry for him. Um, but this guy, Jacob Rodriguez, was the heart and soul, the leader, the tackling leader for this Red Raider defense since 2024. And then last year, he forced the most fumbles in all of college football. He was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. This guy is an absolute dog. He's awesome. I love the pick. This is literally a culture pick right here. This guy was the leader. This guy was literally the leader for Texas Tech last year, and they went into the college football playoff undefeated until they lost to Oregon. And you know what's pretty cool about it? His last college football game ever was played at Hard Rock Stadium. And now, a couple months later, he's in the NFL and he is going to be playing at Hard Rock Stadium for most of the season. How freaking cool is that? That is really cool. But this is this is his defensive stats through the 2025 season for Texas Tech. He played 14 games. He had 128 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 7 forced fumbles. I want you to 7 forced fumbles. This guy is a hawk. He is a ball hawk, and I love that about him. 1 fumble recovery for a touchdown, 4 interceptions. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns. He was 5th in the Heisman voting this year, okay? He wasn't top 4, but he was 5th. He was pretty darn close. And then he won the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. So at first, I'm like, uh-oh. They're not going to give this extension to Jordan Brooks. Jordan Brooks might be getting traded. But then he talks about his Red Raider connection with Jordan Brooks and how Jordan Brooks already reached out to him. And, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very tired. He talks about his Texas Tech connection with Jordan Brooks and how Zach Thomas is his mentor. If anything, I feel like Terrell Dotson's in danger. This regime didn't sign Terrell Dotson. This regime knows nothing about Terrell Dotson. Maybe his spot at the second linebacker is in jeopardy to Jacob Rodriguez. And a linebacking core of Jordan Brooks, Jacob Rodriguez, Terrell Dotson, and Willie Gay Jr. That's dangerous, man. That's a very dangerous linebacking core. And at the beginning, I really wanted a wide receiver. But when they picked Jacob Rodriguez, I was like, whoa, that's a really good pick. Really good pick by John Eric Sullivan. So, I loved it. I love that pick. So, there was a lot of time to wait between 43 and 75. So I was just like flip-flopping back and forth to the Sixers game. We now get into the third round, and I believe probably the biggest story of the draft is, how far Jermon McCoy has fallen. He is getting the Shador Sanders treatment from last year where he didn't get taken until the 5th round. This guy didn't play last year because he had a torn ACL, and he's had off-the-field issues as well. But how in the world is Jamon McCoy still there? That is wild. That is wild. I don't know if he's going to be there in the fourth round tomorrow, but I don't know, man. If I'm John Eric Sullivan, if I'm Jeff Halfley, I would consider taking a swing on him. I would. So now we move into the third round, and we get to the 75th pick, and the Dolphins take Caleb Douglas. And I tweeted out, I'm like, I'm not saying I don't hate the pick. I'm not saying it's a bad pick, but there's a lot of better receivers out there. There's Ted Hurst, there's Chris Bell, Chris Brazel, Jacoby Lane. Um, who else was out there? I think I mentioned everybody, but they picked them, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know who Caleb Douglas is. Um, I'm looking forward to getting to know more of him, and I'm happy we got him because we need a receiver. Could we have gotten a better receiver? Sure, we could have gotten like a Ted Hurst or a Skylar Bell or Chris. We did get Chris Bell, but um, we got Caleb Douglas, and if they wanted Caleb Douglas, I feel like he would have been there tomorrow. He would have been there in the fourth or fifth round. So I like the pick. He's 6'3", big, tall, physical receiver, and I hope he pans out well. And then we got the tight end from Ohio State. That's who they went next. Looks like I'm gonna be watching some Caleb Douglas film. Ohio State went tight end. Will Miami went tight end from Ohio State. Will Kaczmarek, and when they broke down the film for him, uh, they talked about him being a run blocking tight end and how he's basically a sixth offensive lineman on the field. And Ohio State head coach Ryan Day came out and said the Dolphins are getting the toughest and best blocking tight end in the country. So, again, like this right here, this is a pick that I feel like, hey, I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to trust John Eric Sullivan. I'm going to put my belief in his hands because this is his first get-go. I feel like I have no choice but to put my belief in his hands with this one. Am I saying he's going to be the tight end one? Honestly, I probably would rather have Greg Dulcich be tight end one, but this guy is essentially going to be Durham Smythe or Alec Ingold, one of the two, whatever way you want to put it. This guy is primarily going to be a blocking tight end. And I hope that benefits us in the run game because we have one of the best running backs in the NFL with Devon Achane. And then our last pick of the night was wide receiver from Louisville, Chris Bell. And I loved it. That was a great pick. And I know he's coming off the ACL, but he is running 18 miles an hour 5 months after touring his ACL. So I think he'll be ready for the season. If he didn't tear his ACL, my man would have been a top 50 pick for sure. He played 11 games. He had 72 receptions, 917 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And that's before he tore his ACL in November. Booger McFarland gave him the comparison to A.J. Brown. and I love it. I love it, man. So, could Chris Bell be our new wide receiver one? I mean, I don't know. We have to watch training camp, but now I feel like our offense is set. I feel like our starters are set. We have Malik Willis as our quarterback. The offensive line, we could only count on two guys. Now, if Austin Jackson stays healthy and we have Proctor, we have good. We have four good offensive linemen on this team, and the main concern is still wide receiver. But at the end of the night, we have Chris Bell, Malik Washington, Caleb Douglas, Jalen Tolbert, Tutu Atwell, Terrace Marshall Jr., Theo Weiss, Taj Washington. 8 receivers. AJ Henning too, but he gets cut every year. I would say 3 of them get cut, and you're left with maybe 6 or 5 receivers. Come late August when it's time to put out the 53-man roster. But overall, I thought it was a solid draft for the Miami Dolphins. They did what they needed to do in the third round, which is get 2 wide receivers. I'm very happy with the Chris Bell pick. My favorite pick of the whole draft was Jacob Rodriguez, and the other two are whatever. But I'm not gonna get mad at those because I realize that this is what John Eric Sullivan wants, and this is what John Eric Sullivan really trusts. So those are my reactions to day 2 of the NFL draft. And I appreciate you guys for watching. Subscribe, comment down below, hit the like button if you like what you heard from me, and then follow me on Twitter and TikTok, Cullen_Joseph. All right, guys, I'm getting out of here. I will see you all in the next one. No draft video tomorrow. Quick programming note: no draft video tomorrow. So, all right, guys, have a good night. Stay safe, and as always, stay classy. And I'm out. Let's go, Dolphins.